Gentlemen, there are two specific pressure points on your body that can naturally restart blood flow, reawaken nerve sensitivity, and bring back the morning strength you thought was gone forever. I know that sounds almost too simple, but stay with me, because what I'm about to show you is not a gimmick. It is biology. I'm Dr. Lila Romano, a board-certified urologist with over a decade of clinical experience helping men restore their vitality, their confidence, and their intimate lives. Today, I'm going to reveal two powerful pressure points that most men will never learn about in their entire lives. Points that can reawaken your body's natural morning response safely and permanently. And I'm going to show you exactly where they are, exactly how to use them, and exactly what to expect week by week. So I'm begging you, stay with me until the very end, because the last thing I share may be the most important of all. Now, before we get into the solution, I need you to understand something first. Something I wish every man over 50 could hear directly from his doctor. If you wake up in the morning and your manhood feels lifeless, if that natural strength you once counted on has quietly vanished, it is not because you are too old. It is not because your body has given up on you. And it is absolutely not because something is permanently broken. Here is what is really happening. Your body still remembers how to respond. Your nerves are still alive. Your blood vessels are still capable. Your manhood is still there, waiting. What has changed is that over time, the pathways that carry blood and nerve signals to your erectile tissue have grown quiet, dormant from lack of the right stimulation and attention. Think of it like a room in your house that you stopped visiting years ago. The electricity is still there. The lights still work. But because the switch hasn't been flipped in so long, the room stays dark. That does not mean the power is gone. It means the connection hasn't been made. And the moment you flip that switch again, the room lights up instantly. That is exactly how your body works. And that is exactly what we are going to do today. I remember a patient of mine, Harold, 74 years old, a retired gentleman who came to see me looking exhausted and defeated. He sat across from me in my office and said something I will never forget. He said, "Doc, I don't even care about sex anymore. I just want to wake up one morning and feel alive again." That sentence stopped me cold because it told me everything I needed to know. That what men truly crave in this season of life is not just a physical response. It is dignity. It is presence. It is the quiet confidence of knowing your body still belongs to you. And I looked Harold in the eye and told him exactly what I'm telling you right now. You are not broken. You have simply not been given the right information, and once you have it, everything changes. Now, here is where the science comes in, because I want you to understand why these two pressure points work, not just that they work. Morning erections are not random. They are the result of two systems working in perfect coordination: blood flow and nerve signals. Every night while you sleep, your brain sends electrical signals down through your spinal cord to the sacral erection center, the command hub for your entire pelvic region. Those signals tell the smooth muscles inside the erectile chambers to relax. When those muscles relax, blood rushes in, fills the chambers, and produces natural firmness. It is an elegant, automatic process. But here is what age does to that process. After 50, arterial walls begin to stiffen. Nerve conduction slows. The signals that once traveled at lightning speed now arrive weaker and delayed. The result? The room stays dark more often than it used to. Research published in the International Journal of Impotence Research has shown that targeted stimulation of the perineal and pelvic nerve pathways can directly reactivate this reflex system, improving both blood delivery and nerve responsiveness without a single drug. And in my own clinical experience, I have watched men in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s rediscover what they thought time had taken from them. Not because of a miracle, but because of two simple points and the consistency to use them. So let me show you the first one, And I want you to pay close attention here, because this is the point that most men will go their entire lives never knowing about. Pressure point number 1 is called the perineum. It is located in the soft space between your scrotum and your anus. In Eastern medicine, this area has been recognized for thousands of years. It is called CV1, the root of life. In Western medicine, it is almost never discussed. And that is a shame, because this small, overlooked zone holds extraordinary power over male vitality. Let me tell you what sits directly beneath this area, because once you understand the anatomy, you will never underestimate this point again. Beneath the surface of the perineum lie 3 critical structures. First, the bulbospongiosus muscle, one of the most important muscles in the entire male pelvic floor. This muscle acts like a natural clamp. When you are aroused and blood begins to fill the erectile chambers, it is the bulbospongiosus that squeezes and holds that blood in place, maintaining your firmness. Over time, especially as men become less active and this area receives less engagement, this muscle weakens and loses its grip. The result is erections that fade faster, feel softer, or simply do not arrive the way they used to. Second, running through this same region is the pudendal nerve, the primary nerve highway for all sensation and signal traffic to and from your manhood. When this nerve pathway is sluggish or compressed, the communication between your brain and your erectile tissue breaks down. And third, directly beneath this area runs the perineal artery, carrying fresh, oxygen-rich blood right to the base of your erectile tissue. This is not just a patch of skin, gentlemen. This is a control hub. And when it is ignored and held tight with tension, which happens naturally with age, inactivity, and prolonged sitting, it functions like a valve that has been shut off. Blood flow is restricted, nerve signals are interrupted, and your body simply forgets how to send the right messages. But the moment you release that tension, the valve opens. Blood moves freely, nerves reconnect, and your body remembers exactly what it was built to do. Here is how to activate it. Find a small, soft rolled towel or a firm but comfortable cushion. Position it directly beneath this area and sit gently onto it so that your body weight creates light, sustained pressure on the perineum. Now breathe, slowly and deliberately. 4 counts in through your nose, 4 counts out through your mouth. Do not force anything. Do not push. Simply let the weight of your body sink into the pressure and breathe. Stay here for 3 to 5 minutes. That is all. And what you will begin to feel, sometimes within just the first few sessions, is a warmth, a tingling, sometimes a faint pulsing sensation that seems to radiate outward from that spot. That, gentlemen, is your neurovascular system waking back up. That is blood beginning to move through pathways that have been quiet far too long. I think of Thomas, a 71-year-old veteran who came to my practice with his arms crossed and his eyes tired. "Doc," he said, "it's like the lights just went out down there. I don't feel anything anymore." I taught him this exact practice. Sit, breathe, no forcing, just stillness and presence. 3 days later, he called my office. His voice was different, lighter. "Something is happening," he said. "It's faint, but I feel a pulse again. I actually feel alive down there." And I want you to understand what that moment does to a man, because it is not just physical. The instant a man feels even the smallest flicker of life returning to that part of himself, his entire mindset shifts. He stops believing he is finished. He starts believing he still has more to give. And that belief, that renewed sense of possibility, changes everything that follows. Now, as powerful as the perineum is, it is only half of the equation, because there is a second pressure point, one that surprises almost every man I've ever shown it to. It is not even on your groin. In fact, it runs along the inside of your thigh, and most men have never once connected this area to their erections. But once you understand what is hidden there, you will realize just how much of your vitality has been waiting, quietly, for you to find it. Pressure point number 2 is the femoral pathway, a line that runs along the inner crease of your thigh, right where your leg meets your lower abdomen. Now, I know what you're thinking. My thighs? What does that have to do with anything? That is almost word for word what Earl told me. Earl was a 68-year-old truck driver who had spent decades behind the wheel. By the time he reached my clinic, his lower body felt disconnected, stiff, numb, and exhausted. "Doc," he said, grinning slightly as he said it, "my thighs are just for hauling me around. I never thought they had anything to do with what happens in the bedroom." But here is what Earl did not know, and what most men do not know. Hidden beneath that inner thigh crease are two of the most critical structures in your body when it comes to erectile function. The first is the femoral artery, the main blood highway that supplies your entire lower body. Every drop of blood that reaches your pelvic region, your erectile tissue, your manhood, it passes through this artery. The second is the femoral nerve, one of the primary signal carriers that runs throughout your pelvis. These two structures together are essentially the interstate highway of your lower body. When they are open and flowing freely, your pelvic region is alive with circulation, warmth, and nerve activity. But when they become stiff and restricted, which happens after years of sitting, inactivity, or simply the natural tightening of age, blood flow slows, nerve signals weaken, and the entire pelvic region begins to lose its vitality. And no pill on the earth can fully compensate for a blocked highway. You have to open the road. That is exactly what stimulating this point does. By applying gentle, deliberate pressure along that inner thigh crease, you begin to release the tension that has built up in the surrounding tissue. You restore flexibility to the arterial walls. You wake up the nerve pathways that have been compressed and quieted, and you invite blood to surge freely again toward the pelvic region, toward the very tissue that produces your morning erections. Here is how to do it correctly. Begin by sitting comfortably or lying on your back with your knees slightly apart. Using 2 or 3 fingertips, begin tracing slowly along the inner crease of one thigh, from just below the lower abdomen, moving downward along that soft fold where the thigh meets the pelvis. Move slowly, and as you trace, pay attention. Notice where the tissue feels tight or tender. Those are the spots that need the most attention. Pause at each one. Apply gentle but firm circular pressure. Not painful, but deliberate enough to feel the tissue beneath your fingers responding. Breathe slowly as you work. 4 counts in, 4 counts out. Spend 2 to 3 minutes on each side. And as you do, you will begin to notice something remarkable. A warmth spreading downward through your inner thigh. A sense of something opening, of blood beginning to move in ways it has not moved in quite some time. Earl came back to see me 1 week after I taught him this technique. He sat down across from me with a different posture, more open, less defeated. "Doc," he said, "it felt strange at first. I didn't think it was doing anything. But by the end of the week, I felt warmth down below, like something was actually moving again." And by the second week, 2 weeks of simply tracing his fingertips along that inner crease and breathing, he told me something that has stayed with me ever since. I'm waking up with strength I thought was gone forever. But it's not just that. I don't just feel more in my body, I feel more like a man. That is the true power of this point. It does not just restore circulation, it restores identity, confidence, the quiet dignity of knowing your body still responds to you. Now that you understand both points, the perineum and the femoral pathway, I want to explain why they work so powerfully together. Because erections require 2 systems functioning in harmony, blood flow and nerve signals. When either one of those systems is compromised, your morning strength fades. The perineum is the valve. It controls both blood and nerve signal flow at the root of your erectile system. The femoral pathway is the highway. It governs the volume and force of blood delivery to your entire pelvic region. When the valve is closed and the highway is blocked, nothing gets through. But when you open both, when you release the perineum and free the femoral pathway in the same daily practice, your body has everything it needs to do what it was designed to do: rise, respond, come back to life. And to make these 2 points work to their absolute fullest, I want to share 3 supporting habits that my patients combine with this practice. These are not complicated. They take almost no time, but they multiply your results dramatically. The first is deep belly breathing. 5 minutes of slow, deliberate nose breathing into your belly every single day. This is not just relaxation. Deep breathing triggers the release of nitric oxide, the molecule responsible for relaxing and widening your blood vessels. More nitric oxide means more blood reaches your erectile tissue. It is one of the simplest and most powerful things you can do for your vascular health. The second habit is morning warm water. Before you do anything else after waking, drink 1 full glass of warm water. After a night of sleep, your blood thickens slightly. Warm water thins it gently and gets circulation moving, especially to the areas that matter most. It primes the entire system before your day begins. And the third habit is reducing sugar in the evening. I know it sounds small, but sugar quietly damages the inner lining of your blood vessels, the same vessels your erections depend on. Every evening dessert, every late-night snack high in sugar is another small injury to those walls. Men who simply remove their evening sugar consistently report firmer, more reliable morning responses within weeks because their vessels are finally being allowed to heal. I have shared these 2 points with hundreds of men in my practice, and almost every single one of them has come back and said the same thing. I wish someone had told me this sooner. But there is something else I tell every one of those men before they walk out of my office, something I consider just as important as the technique itself. And I am going to tell you the same thing right now, because you deserve the complete picture, not just the part that sounds exciting. First and most importantly, never apply hard pressure to either of these points. The perineum and the inner thigh are sensitive, vascular areas. Firm but gentle is the rule. If you feel pain, not just pressure, but actual pain, stop immediately. Pain is your body telling you something is wrong, and you must listen to it. Second, if you are currently taking blood thinners, medications like warfarin, aspirin therapy, or any anticoagulant, please speak with your doctor before beginning perineal massage. These areas are rich in blood vessels, and blood thinners can make bruising or internal bleeding more likely with sustained pressure. Third, if you have had recent prostate surgery, pelvic surgery, or any surgical procedure in the lower abdominal region, do not begin this practice without clearance from your urologist. Your internal healing takes priority. Fourth, this practice is not a substitute for medical evaluation. If your erectile dysfunction is severe, sudden in onset, or accompanied by pain, discomfort during urination, or any other concerning symptoms, please see a doctor. These techniques are powerful, but they are a complement to proper medical care, not a replacement for it. And finally, if you have any active skin infection, rash, or irritation in either of these areas, wait until it is fully healed before beginning. Your skin is your first line of defense, and it deserves that respect. Now, here is what you can actually expect when you commit to this practice. Because I want you to go into this with realistic, honest expectations, not hope built on hype. In the first week, most men notice subtle but unmistakable changes: a warmth in the lower body, a tingling that was not there before, a sense of awareness in the pelvic region that had gone quiet. Nothing dramatic yet, but your body is telling you it hears you. By weeks 2 and 3, something more tangible begins to emerge: a faint fullness in the morning, slightly improved sensitivity. Some men describe it as a quiet hum returning to an area that had been completely silent. By weeks 4 through 6, if you have been consistent, every morning, both points, the supporting habits, most men begin experiencing the return of actual morning erections. Not always full, not always consistent, but present. And that presence, gentlemen, is everything. Because it means the pathway is open again. It means the signal is getting through. Between 8 and 12 weeks of daily practice, the men in my clinic who commit fully report reliable, stronger morning responses, improved sensitivity during intimacy, more energy in the lower body throughout the day, and something harder to measure but equally real, a renewed sense of pride in themselves. The key word in all of this is consistent. Your body does not respond to things you do once. It responds to things you do every day. Consistency is the only variable that separates the men who transform and the men who don't. So here is my challenge to you. Starting tomorrow morning, before you get out of bed, give yourself 8 minutes. 5 minutes on the perineum with your rolled towel and your slow breathing. 3 minutes tracing the femoral pathway along your inner thigh, pausing wherever you feel tightness, breathing through it. That is it. 8 minutes, every single morning for 30 days. Pair it with deep breathing, the morning warm water, and cutting the evening sugar. Give your body a full month of consistent daily attention, and I promise you, your body will respond. I think of Harold, who walked into my office exhausted and defeated, saying he just wanted to feel alive again. 3 weeks after learning exactly what you just learned today, he called me. His voice was different, lighter, almost disbelieving. He said, "Dr. Romano, I woke up this morning and for the first time in over 10 years, I felt like myself again." That was not a pill. That was not surgery. That was Harold paying attention to 2 points on his own body and giving himself permission to believe that his best years were not behind him. And gentlemen, neither are yours. If this video helped you, please hit that subscribe button right now, because every week I bring you exactly this kind of real, doctor-informed guidance that most physicians simply do not have time to share in a 10-minute office visit. Share this with a man in your life who needs to hear it. This is Dr. Lila Romano, and I will see you in the video.